Manchester, New York. September 21st, 1823. As he settles into bed, a 17-year-old farmhand named Joseph Smith begins to say his prayers. Suddenly, without warning, an overpowering light envelops his room, and a robed figure appears. According to Smith's account, not only was his robe exceedingly white, but his whole person was glorious beyond description. Speaking from the center of the light, the angel, whose name is Moroni, sends Smith on a quest for several sacred texts hidden near a local tree.
Upon locating the tree, Joseph dug and indeed found the texts. But they recorded a language which he could not read. A second visitation from Moroni told Joseph Smith where he could find what we might call a device of some kind that would allow him to read the text.
Joseph Smith was given this translating stone, the Urim and the Thummim, with which he was able to not only write down this text, but also to be able to translate it.
He then translated the texts into English, which become the Book of Mormon. And it depicts, among other things, that after Jesus ascended into heaven, he came to the Americas and ministered to the native peoples here to convert them to his way of life, and that at some point the texts that become the Book of Mormon are deposited here so that Joseph Smith could find them.
7 years later, Smith publishes these texts as part of the Book of Mormon, establishing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a denomination with more than 15 million followers today. Many religions worldwide have been founded with the help of angels. Whether they're representatives of Christian, Muslim, or Buddhist gods, these apparitions are thought to be a way the gods intervene on Earth with humans.
Angels, when they appear in religious legends and in myths, generally are messengers between the heavenly realm and the human realm.
Throughout the Bible, we have stories of angels and demons appearing to mankind. In fact, Paul says that you be careful how you entertain strangers, because some of you entertain angels unaware. The Bible is very clear that angels can take on human form and appear in the likeness of man.
But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that sometimes these heavenly visions and apparitions may not actually be angels sent by an omniscient God. And curiously, the so-called angel that led Joseph Smith to the sacred texts that would become the Book of Mormon did not profess to have heavenly origins, but claimed to be from another part of the universe.
Now, Moroni did not say that he was an angel. He said that at one time he had lived on Earth, but that now he came from the Pleiades star cluster. And he said there were many others like him.
When we look at the background of the Book of Mormon, we see some very interesting parallels to what could be an extraterrestrial tale. This angel Moroni that appears to Joseph Smith seems to be more than just chance. It's very possible that Joseph Smith was interacting with a type of extraterrestrial.
These extraterrestrials may be giving these messages to world leaders and to prophets and seers and mystics to let us know that we are the product of an extraterrestrial interbreeding and an ongoing contact with these other people who were not born on Earth. And we have lost touch with that history only because we refuse to believe the truth that is recorded in our historical books and see what's right in front of our faces, even now with the encounters that are happening in the modern world.
Northern Israel. According to Bible texts, it was here, in the 9th century BC, that the prophet Elijah reportedly had several encounters with both angels and God, during which he was given prophetic warnings of drought and cataclysm.
One of the most important prophets in Israelite tradition, of course, is Elijah. Elijah predicts some rough things coming, and of course they do.
He warns of a drought that's going to devastate Israel and cause all this starvation. He also is interesting because he was never known to have died. And it's thought that in some ways, yeah, he was taken into space and lives for eternity.
In Elijah's final encounter with God, written in the 2nd book of Kings, the prophet goes up by a whirlwind into heaven, by what's described in the Hebrew Bible as a fiery horse-drawn chariot.
There's a story in Kings about Elijah who reported seeing this strange aerial phenomena that was described variously as sort of bright, whirlwind-like cloud lit up, clearly some sort of object in the sky.
Elijah's experience details a spinning object or a spinning beam that took him up into the object. We see a whirlwind that came over him and a chariot of fire. So the question is, was it the chariot of fire that was spinning, or was it a beam that came down and took him up?
For the faithful, this extraordinary event is believed to be a religious miracle. But could Elijah have been chosen by heavenly beings to fulfill an otherworldly purpose, as ancient astronaut theorists contend?
The one thing that many people don't realize is that the first story we can read about Elijah doesn't talk about that he was taken up there with horses, but just by that fiery chariot that initially was described like a fiery furnace. Now, what's a fiery furnace?
Could the fire have been some sort of engine? When he's taken up in a whirlwind, you know, you only have to look at, for example, when the space shuttle takes to the skies. You know, you have this rumbling, roaring, jet, flames, etc., etc. If you look at it in that context, you could really place this into a UFO category.
When you look at Elijah, there's a nuts and bolts craft there, a fiery chariot, and they get inside it. They meet these beings, which are luminous beings that talk to them, instruct them.
It's important to realize that the biblical religion is an extraterrestrial religion, meaning that God is not from earth. We learn this in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Extraterrestrial help is sent to earth to help humanity in the quest to do God's will.
Was Elijah really a man chosen by otherworldly beings to help them steer the course of humanity? And if so, might this help explain other, even more incredible biblical encounters between God and mankind? Manchester, New York, March 1830. 24-year-old visionary Joseph Smith Jr. publishes the Book of Mormon and creates the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a religious movement with more than 14 million followers today. Incredibly, the Book of Mormon includes Joseph Smith's personal accounts of his interaction with an otherworldly being.
Joseph Smith had something like a vision. He wrote that an angel appeared to him. The angel had the name of Moroni. And this angel appeared 3 times and told to Joseph Smith he should go to a certain little hill, he should put a stone plate away, and inside he would find a cave, and in the cave he would find unknown writings.
He showed Joseph Smith the location of the buried treasure, these golden plates with a message from some place else, a new revelation, a new book of the Bible. he explained that he had come from the star system Pleiades, and so the source of the Book of Mormon is extraterrestrial.
Smith actually describes several different cases where he appears to be with this extraterrestrial Moroni. We really have to wonder if these aren't just mythological explanations or physical events that actually took place.
Joseph Smith is interesting because he meets mythical beings. The story of Smith is to some extent unique in the sense that obviously religion was created based on what he encountered.
However, which way you want to look at this, whether it's flesh and blood alien or an actual angel, they're both extraterrestrials, so there's no question about that. They misunderstood those visits as being angelic in nature, when in reality, they were visited by physical space travelers.
Mount Sinai, the 15th century BC. According to the Bible's book of Exodus, it was on the peak of this holy mountain that Moses met with God. But ancient astronaut theorists believe Moses' encounter may have been with a different kind of otherworldly entity.
But there's an interesting legend passed down from temple times itself, that when Moses ascended to Mount Sinai to speak with God, a cloud came down from heaven and told Moses, come into the cloud to ascend to God. A door opened in the cloud, and Moses walked in, and it closed behind him, and he ascended.
The Lord descends with smoke, fire, loud noise, trembling, and so on. All religions speak about the same thing, or they use different names, and the stories change, but the basic stories are always the same. Somebody descended with loud noise, smoke, fire. The humans could not understand what it was. They misinterpreted and believed that this was God or the gods. It's just a misinterpretation. I am absolutely sure, there's no doubt, that we were visited by beings from outer space.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, such accounts of unearthly encounters can be found in every major religion, including Islam, where the angel Gabriel, also known as Jibril, was said to be the intermediary between the Prophet Muhammad and the Muslim god Allah.
Jibril normally would come and dispense wisdom to Muhammad inside this cave that he was dwelling in. But on 2 occasions, Muhammad did not meet Jibril in the cave in person. Muhammad went outside the cave, and it was at this time that something absolutely fantastic happened. What did Muhammad see when he went outside the cave? The records show that there was a magnificent shining object there in front of him. It was said to have 600 wings, and it was burning as if it was on fire. What do we know of in modern times that could add up to a sighting like that? It's obvious. A craft that would be hovering there in front of him, giving off brilliant white light that he interpreted as fire. And when he went out and saw this magnificent shining object, the same wisdom that he was getting from Jibril was imparted to him, though he could not see any being. He only could see this object.
Jebel Kashem et Tarif, Egypt. This mountain rising out of the Sinai Desert is believed by some to be the site of 2 of history's most important divine encounters. The peak where the biblical patriarch Moses encountered the burning bush, and the place where Moses later received the 10 Commandments from God. But what was the true nature of Moses' divine encounter? Was he a normal human, randomly chosen to deliver the Word of God? Or did he possess a special gift, an inherent ability to communicate with otherworldly forces?
Mystical literature from all over the world has accounts of visitations from angels, gods, some kind of supernatural creatures that interact and interfere, that represent some powers beyond our understanding.
We see this in the Bible with Moses. He is just one of several examples of leaders who are guided by divine guidance, who really are getting the help of the gods into getting to their goal.
In addition to stories of the prophet Moses, the Hebrew and Christian Testaments also feature similar accounts of numerous other prophets, including Elijah, Isaiah, Noah, Abraham, Enoch, and Jesus.
Prophets are a major element in almost all ancient societies. These were people who functioned sort of as liaisons between the mortal world and the immortal world, between the gods and the humans.
They have a message, which is a communication from God. But what's very interesting about that, it's not just a message. The presence of God is felt to be in the words of the prophet himself. So the one who hears a prophet actually is encountering the presence of God and not just a message from God.
So if you have a prophet who is an authority figure in your community and he says, this God is upset about this, you need to do X, Y, or Z to placate this god or goddess, you did it.
But was the source of these prophetic messages truly of a divine nature? According to ancient astronaut theorists, there is perhaps another possible explanation as to who or what may have been contacting these prophets of the ancient past.
What we're beginning to realize is that this is not religious, but that these are people who've had anomalous experiences with entities, and that this is contact with a non-human intelligence.
Prophets and prophecies are evidence that these higher beings are instructing us to help create civilization, for us to move forward, and even to give us some warning of the future. This is what's going to happen. You need to get ready.
Is it really possible that extraterrestrial beings made contact with the ancient prophets? Perhaps the answers can be found by looking further into the story of Moses, as written more than 3,000 years ago and chronicled in the Hebrew Testament's book of Exodus.
Moses' first encounter with God occurs in the third chapter of the book of Exodus. Moses encounters a burning bush, and God speaks to him out of this burning bush. And Moses was given a mission, and the mission is to liberate the Hebrews indentured in Egypt.
The idea of the burning bush is very interesting to me because things like burning bushes really don't exist, especially if they all of a sudden give instructions. So we have to ask ourselves, what did our ancestors describe? And so the burning bush idea could have been a technological creation, which Moses described as a burning bush.
India. Over 1.1 billion people crowd its modern cities and rural townships, speaking hundreds of languages and practicing a number of different religions. India is considered one of the oldest civilizations, with settlements dating back over 11,000 years. It is also home to several of the oldest records of ancient technologies. Ancient Sanskrit texts dating back as far as 6000 BC describe in varying but vivid detail flying machines called vimanas.
Vimanas are aeroplanes, and they are powered by some jet engines. This seems to be true because all the description of the flight behavior, elephants ran away in panic. Grass was thrown out because there was a lot of pressure from behind those vimanas, so that we can say this is a description of the spaceship.
Although mainstream historians believe the Vimana texts are myths, many of the documents contain passages that seem to describe modern machinery and technology.
The Vimanika Shastra goes into metals that are used in these craft. It talks about electricity and power sources. It talks about the pilots and the clothing they have to wear. It talks about the food that they eat. It talks even about the weapons that are kept on these airships.
The flight manuals of the Vimanas are quite similar to the flight manuals you find in the modern passenger flight business, or when you go to the military jet engines. Of course, they have also flight manuals because it's necessary for a pilot to get knowledge about his plane he wanted to fly with.
We also learned that these Vimanas could be controlled mentally. And this is a technology that modern militaries are beginning to develop.
Even today, with as advanced as we think we are, almost every manifestation of an actual extraterrestrial civilization today would look almost like magic to us, where it has to do with technological electromagnetic systems that interface with coherent thought and organized thought. And this gets into people go, wow, now you're losing me here. But I tell people, I said, yeah, well, you got to push your boundaries a little bit if you're talking about a true interstellar civilization.
The Vimanika Shastra suggests Vimanas were powered by several gyroscopes placed inside a sealed liquid mercury vortex.
Here's an example of a little kid's gyroscope. You spin it with a heavy wheel around a central axis. Well, a gyroscope seems to do a lot of strange things, even defy gravity. And it does this because it uses what's called rotational or angular momentum. And it wants to keep a particular orientation on its spin axis, the center rod. If you push on that rod, it will want to righten itself up to its original orientation. It wants to keep that same angular momentum. Gyroscopes are used all over the place, in airplanes, in spacecraft, in submarines. This allows them to determine their position based on where they started. They can also use it for finding their velocity or even just the orientation of the vehicle in space. One of the texts talks about Mercury rotating and driving some sort of a powerful wind or a windmill effect. That might be some sort of what we call a flywheel energy storage, where you have a spinning disk and then you extract energy from it slowly. That would be the Mercury. And then that could be used to drive some sort of a propeller or what we call a ducted fan sort of system, like you have in a hovercraft. Mercury would be quite good for that because it's a high density, so you'd have a small package for your power plant.
How are these civilizations traveling faster than the speed of light is a fundamental question. It's a scientific application of things that have been studied for thousands of years and they're within the Vedas.
The foundation of Hinduism is carefully preserved in India's most ancient texts. And according to their traditions, these texts are accounts given directly by the gods themselves and only transcribed by humans. This collection includes the Vedas, or Hindu scriptures, as well as other manuscripts written in the early Sanskrit language. Vedic scholars suggest knowledge pertaining to architecture, science, technology, weaponry, and medicine are preserved in meticulous detail in these works.
The origins of the Vedic text goes back to cosmic time. They have been around for thousands of years. It is believed that the knowledge came directly from gods.
We are seeing a handbook of the gods. We are looking at an endowment from some superior intelligence that appears to have been given to us as a very practical guide in ways that benefit humankind all across the board.
Sirpur, India, the Sarang Tila Temple. This structure, which dates back to the 7th century AD, was recently unearthed after being buried by a powerful earthquake that occurred in the 11th century. Although the rest of the area was completely leveled, the structure itself remained largely intact. Archaeologists suggest that this is due to the advanced construction techniques known as Ayurvedic or Vedic architecture utilized by its builders. The principles they used are derived from the ancient science of design that can be traced back to the ancient Indian texts. In March 2017, researcher and ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos traveled to India to meet with archaeologist Dr. Arun Sharma, who headed the dig.
This is beautiful.
These are the steps. The steps, they are not straight. On the two corners, they have uplifted, got uplifted. This is the effect of the earthquake that happened here in 11th century AD. But rest of the township was totally destroyed.
Really? Now, is this considered Ayurvedic architecture right here?
Yes, Vedic architecture. The temple is built of heavy stones and joined by Ayurvedic paste, which is so strong that even after 1600 years, it is not dead.
That's amazing. Huh.
Now I will show you the original mortar places.
Okay.
Although much of the site has been renovated using modern concrete, blocks held together by the Ayurvedic paste can still be found.
Here, you see between the two stones, there is no gap. So here Ayurvedic paste was applied.
It seems to be almost like some type of glue.
Yes, it is a glue. They have not moved from their place. It is such a firm joining. If you want to make it live long, you follow the ancient pattern, not the cement. Cement has got the life of 70 years.
The glue-like substance is said to form a bond that is at least 20 times stronger than concrete. But modern builders have been unwilling to entertain the notion that such an ancient concoction could be superior to today's building materials.
Wow, look at this. Beautiful.
The detailed instructions for making this paste can be found in an ancient Indian text known as the Mayamatam, a manuscript dedicated to construction techniques. The information contained within the document is understood to have been passed down to humans from Mayasura, the ancient king of the demigods, who was said to oversee various construction projects on Earth, including cities in the sky.
Now we are in front of one sanctum sanctorum. And just at the entry point, here is the slit.
Curiously, there is a more astounding earthquake-proof feature at the site, which indicates that advanced knowledge was used in its construction. Located at key points within the Sarang Tila Temple are several 80-foot-long shafts designed to form air pockets that can dissipate the impact of seismic events.
The book in which all this is described, I will show you.
Yes, please.
This is the book.
All right.
It is in 2 volumes.
Wow.
2 volumes. Every detail is given.
Oh, wow, this is big. It's a huge book. And this text has been around for 4,500 years.
Which traveled from mouth to mouth. When the writing started, then it was written down.
In your opinion, where did this knowledge come from?
Those who are more advanced in other planets used to visit the Earth, and I think they must have given some knowledge to the local people.
And you think that this knowledge originated from the stars?
I think there was a part played by these aliens.
It's amazing.
The Omo River, Ethiopia. Flowing south 400 miles into Lake Turkana. The banks of this river are rich in hominid fossil fragments, including those of chimpanzees, gorillas, and early humanoids. Here in 1967, paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey unearthed 2 partial human skulls. The remains date as far back as 195,000 years ago, making the fossils the oldest evidence of modern humans, or Homo sapiens.
We are constantly still finding new breakthroughs and either more complete skeletons or a more complete site. If we look at the fossil record, at some point eventually you find common ancestors with chimpanzees. You go back really close and you have Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon man, and we came out of Cro-Magnon man, and the Neanderthals die out. And it's really interesting mystery to try and piece together why were we more successful than they were.
We are the only one who came out of the family tree with culture. Why? Evolution says by coincidence. We have adapted as best. I say no, it was an artificial mutation made out of the family tree.
And then overnight, we were building pyramids, Sumeria was created. All those different high achievements were done virtually overnight. So this quantum leap in development, this big bang of knowledge or intelligence, all of a sudden happened. And the ancient astronaut theory suggests that this is a direct result of extraterrestrials tampering with our DNA. So we're half human and half extraterrestrial. We're hybrids.
We have an incredible wealth of information in stone, preserved from ancient times, that can lead us in a direction of really knowing that the ancient ancestors of modern humans were not simply born on Earth, but came here from somewhere else.
But if extraterrestrials arrived here in the distant past, who were they? And why did they come here? Ancient astronaut theorists believe answers exist in early Sumerian texts. In 1849, British archaeologist Austin Henry Layard discovered 22,000 clay tablets in the ancient Sumerian city of Nineveh, in an area now known as Iraq. The tablets contain cuneiform script, believed to be the earliest writing system, created by the Sumerians 6,000 years ago. Author Zechariah Sitchin spent more than 30 years translating the Sumerian clay tablets. In his 1976 book, The 12th Planet, Sitchin claims the cuneiform texts describe an alien race named the Anunnaki, who came to Earth from an undiscovered planet in our solar system, beyond Neptune, called Nibiru.
They explained to the Sumerians that through their own rise to a technological culture, they damaged their atmosphere. And they came here seeking gold and precious elements to repair their planet's dwindling atmosphere.
According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki first visited Earth 450,000 years ago, during the age of Neanderthals. And they created Homo sapiens through genetic engineering to create a species to work and mine precious minerals for them.
Our forefathers believed that they were gods. And they were here on purpose. They wanted to make our primitive generation at that time intelligence. They wanted to plant curiosity into our brain. And we became more developed in technology, in astronomy, in every field. That's what they wanted. The question is, why?
When you look at the ancient creation stories, you find that what they said about our position as Homo sapiens is that we were created to be a slave race or a work race.
According to Sitchin's interpretation of the ancient tablets, the human civilization in Sumer was set up under the guidance of the Anunnaki. And to disguise alien manipulation, human kings were inaugurated to provide intermediaries between mankind and their so-called gods. Then, Around 3000 BC, humans began building stone monuments, such as Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. For mainstream historians, the physical ability and know-how to construct these megalithic sites remains a mystery. But ancient astronaut theorists contend that megaton stone monuments were erected by human laborers, aided with alien technology.
And what do the ancient texts say about ancient Sumeria? That none of this could have been possible without the help of the gods, or in their case, the Anunnaki, which means those who from the heavens came.
Many cultures had a time when they interacted with their living gods. So who were those gods? In my mind, they were misrepresented advanced extraterrestrials, and they brought forth the technology to build the monuments we see, such as Giza, or all across Bolivia, Peru, and South America.
In the Hebrew Bible, the book of Exodus describes how the Jewish people suffered as slaves living in Egypt. Then sometime in the 14th century BC, the ruling pharaoh feared their growing numbers and ordered the killing of all firstborn Jews living in Egypt. In an effort to save her son, one mother put her child in a small basket and set him adrift on the Nile River. That child was found by the pharaoh's family, who named him Moses and raised him as their own. As an adult, Moses discovered his true identity and demanded that the pharaoh free the Jews. When the pharaoh rejected him, Moses helped the Jews escape from Egypt. Historians believe that Moses and his people crossed the Red Sea and made their way into the Sinai desert. According to the ancient texts, God grew angry at the Jews for idol worshiping and forced them to wander the desert aimlessly for 40 years before allowing them to enter Israel. During this time, the Bible says the Israelites survived by eating a single food source, manna. But what is manna? A naturally abundant food provided by God? Or, as some believe, something very different?
In the Bible, it explains how the Israelites got from Egypt, where they'd been slaves, to the Promised Land. They had to cross the Sinai desert. And inevitably, given that there was a lot of Israelites and very little growing as it was a desert, they ran short on supplies. God stepped in at this point and sent manna from heaven. This took the form of some kind of seeds that rained down upon the desert, and then they were collected the next day, and they provided food for the Israelites, except Friday, when there was a double portion, because on Saturday, being the Sabbath, it didn't fall.
While the Hebrew Bible fails to give a clear description of manna, another ancient Jewish text provides an alternative clue. The Zohar is a collection of spiritual commentaries and interpretations of the Torah, and is central to the mystical Kabbalah belief written in the 13th century. The Zohar describes what is called the Ancient of Days as providing the manna. But what was this Ancient of Days? A man, a god, or something else?
The text speaks of different-sized brains, different-sized faces. They were connected with different tubes and different light sources. Theologians have suggested that this is the description of God. However, when looked at from a modern perspective, what is described in the Zohar isn't necessarily a God figure, but rather a type of machine.
Intrigued by this information, two electrical engineers, George Sassoon and Rodney Dale, used the anatomical descriptions of the Ancient of Days to design what they called a manna machine.
This really is the key diagram of the manna machine as we built it up from the texts. For instance, one here is the mouth, but it's actually the air intake, which carries what is described as the breath of life. The air goes up this tube here, which is described as the brain of the Ancient One, but is actually a dew still. So that although we were talking about the great sea and the hairs of the beard and so on, at the same time we were able to work out their relative positions, build up the specification of the machine, and find that we had something that was biochemically viable.
Diese Maschine hatte einen Ansaugstutzen.
The machine took in moist morning air and condensed it in the part of the machine that looked like a plexiglass dome. From there, it mixed with an algae culture. The culture was treated with energy, such as a strong laser light, in order to speed the growth.
Of course, it needed energy for cultivating the alga, and this was produced, we postulate, in a small nuclear reactor which would produce both heat and light as required.
Die Manna-Maschine war wahrscheinlich.
The Manna machine was a very dangerous device. We suspect that the reactor that powered the machine was transported in the Ark of the Covenant.
Transportiert wurde.
We have multiple references in the Bible that whoever came close to the Ark of the Covenant and didn't know how to operate it was smitten to death. And sometimes people, after they encountered the Ark, started to lose their nails and started to lose their hair. So we have evidence of some type of radiation poisoning which was in direct correlation with the Ark of the Covenant. And so the Ark of the Covenant housed an extraterrestrial device which was given to the Israelites during their 40-year wandering through the desert.